Hey everybody, it's Mergle, and so today I'm going to go over the things that I think are very important for you to do once you hit 110 or once you're, working on, let's say, your main, right? I mean, these things are semi-important for your alts, but, the recommendation from me is that you level every character to 110 as fast as possible, but that might not be for everybody, and I completely understand that, right? That's only from the gold making perspective, because if you were to get every character to 110, you can enjoy those juicy loots like this. It's 750, and then, well, now we get that 750 bonus, and then we'd hit that 1500 gold. So that'd be a really good mission. And if you could have all your characters with optimized class order halls, that's a pretty good gold income, right? Because these missions aren't too uncommon. It's pretty frequent to see missions like this. But let's say you're just talking from the perspective of you want to level your main, and these are the things that I believe are important to do starting off, right? Now, every class order hall obviously doesn't look like the Demon Hunters, but it's a pretty similar concept, right? So your first and foremost goal should be that you should focus on doing your class campaign quests. And for the Demon Hunters, it's all around Alturius here, but it'll be different for each character. I think like Warrior's Odin, I believe, but everything you do is around your class campaign, and it's very, very important that you're doing this constantly if you want to be ahead of the curve and trying to like be on par with everybody, because a lot of your quests in the quest hall require you to do missions, and it'll take like 4 or 5 missions before you can move on to the next step, and these missions usually vary between 12 to 24 hours, and that's a long wait, but it's completely passive, so you're better off focusing on doing this because you can do other things while you're waiting on that mission to complete. And now there's a reason that it's really important to do your class order hall. Not only does it give you a massive amount of resources, right? The resources are very important because they're used with your researching person, which, again, it's all different for every class. Your researching person's not going to be in the same place because, of course, not every class hall looks like the Demon Hunter. But your researching person it'll require you a lot of stuff to get to these next ranks. And, it takes several days to unlock each rank, right? It's like, I don't remember the exact times, but I know this is a day, like 3 days, 7, and 2 weeks. So I mean, it's a very long time, and the reason you need all those resources is these costs are extremely high, and the class order hall mission quest line thing, class campaign, it gives you a ton. Like, you'll complete parts of it and get like 10k, which is the requirement to unlock your next research, etc., etc. And then again, this is all passive time, so these things can wait while you're doing actual stuff to improve your character. But this final one is important because it's increased the number of legendary items you can equip by 1. Now, that might sound like, okay, great, but it's not super important to get this super fast unless you're really lucky, because in my entirety on the beta, now, I didn't do a lot of Mythic dungeons, and if I would have done that, I probably could have got 2, but I only got a single legendary piece in my entire time on the beta, and then they eventually ended up adding a vendor, so I just bought the other one that I need, but I never got another drop. So, yeah, in my entirety, I only got 1, which is the shoulders that I wear, but you can use this because you might get lucky and get your second one pretty early, and especially if it's your main, then now you can wear 2 legendaries. So it's really important you're working on that class campaign because you want to get all these unlocked fast. I will be making a guide, by the way, to pick which ones of these will make you the most money for every class as soon as Legion comes out, because I'll probably have all my 110s in about 2 weeks because I have no life. Again, I said that the last time, but it's true. So the next thing that you're majorly going to be working on is, once you've unlocked a certain part of, it's pretty far into the quest chain, but you will get a researcher. And this researcher lets you start work orders for artifact research notes, which are this little thing here. Now, it says 4 days on the beta, and they said the beta isn't an actual representation of the time, so I don't know if it will be 4 days on live. I can't really tell you that, but it might be. It might be what they've decided it to be, because at first it was 2 days because they said they were speeding it up for the sake of beta, And then it changed to 7 days, which I thought might be the live time for it, but they've changed it back down to 4 days. So I don't know if they've changed it to the 4 days because that's what they actually want it to be for live, but we'll see. And what does this do? Sorry, these artifact notes, what they do is they increase the amount of artifact power you can gain with each item you use. So, if I were to use an item that would normally give me 100, well, I have 20 levels of, 21 artifact levels. So I would get 11,300% more than I would get for that 100 item, would be 11,000% more artifact power. So it increases your amount immensely, which is really, really important because the final rank, right? Each of these ranks goes up. Oh, excuse me. Well, I can look at it here. But each of these ranks goes up a crazy amount. My next rank requires 240,000 artifact power. I have 4 ranks left to get. The final rank costs like 2 million artifact power, which is a lot. It will take you quite a long time to get. But you can expect to fill up your artifact tree if you're no life in it, focusing on one character, and you don't waste any of your artifact power on the other specialization, because as you can see, my artifact for my tank weapon is fairly filled out too. So if you didn't waste any at all on that, it still would take you probably a good 2-3 months of focusing on leveling that artifact to get it to max. So it's very important you're working on that. Also, with your Class Order Hall campaign, you've unlocked all those wonderful abilities. By finishing it, which is very, very important if you want to be on the top tier when raiding starts and you want to be really, really useful, once you finish it, you unlock this 3rd socket. Now, these sockets are the relics which you put in your weapon. And if you were curious how you increase the power of your weapon, that's what these do. As you can see, let's scroll over this socket. It says Shadow Artifact Relic, which is what I need to put in that socket, is what it's saying. And it increases my weapon by 39 item levels, and it gives me +1 rank in Deceiver's Fury. Now, the ranks change and stuff, what it gives you the +1 in. But it's mostly for the item levels, I would say, because 39 item levels is a pretty huge jump in power, right? And this one, another one, 36 more item levels. Well, I only had access to these 2, but once you complete your Class Order campaign, you get access to the 3rd one, which is another 36 item levels for just a heroic relic. If we were talking like raiding, it's +50 and stuff like that. So you can get a lot of power from these relics, and that's why the 3rd socket's super important, because I don't want to say your weapon is your most important item, but in a way it kind of is, because your weapon dictates how much you're doing damage-wise as a DPS. A lot of times with the tanks, having a really strong shield does increase your armor quite a bit. It's just things like that. Your weapons are kind of like the most useful item. That's why PvPers always go for the weapons first, because it's just gonna help you kick some ass. So yes, getting your weapon completed is very, very important, because once raids are released, you may be done with your quest, your class campaign, if you're focusing on it constantly. So it's really important because, like I said, a lot of it is passive. You're going to be waiting for garrison missions. You can't do it all at once. And then at a certain point, you reach where you have to do, like, well, for the Demon Hunter one, I don't know what the difference is with all of them, but for the Demon Hunter one, I had to run like 50, I had to kill 50 heroic bosses to complete it. So at a certain point, it does require you to do heroics. Now, another thing, now that you're working on your Class Order campaign, you've got those stupid garrison missions, and you don't have anything to do while you're waiting for them, well, that's not true. You have tons of things you can do. Now, I would recommend, too, doing all of the world quests all the time, which I'll show you if it lets me. But no, the reasons you want to do world quests is because, first off, you don't want to miss out. A lot of them give you artifact power. A lot of them give you Blood of Sargeras, and many of them give you just upgrades for your armor. And as you get to a certain point, the upgrades from the armor increase with your item level all the way up to, I've seen, like 840 to 845 with world quests. So you can get pretty good armor from doing world quests. Plus, you have the chance for it to proc Warforged, Titanforged, whatever it is you get lucky enough to do. Now, so in your downtime, again, you're going to be doing those world quests. You got plenty of them to do, you know. See, Blood of Sargeras, you could go around getting that artifact power. As you see, that's 19k, 24k I would get. And of course, the Order resources. The Order resources are important because after you finish your class campaign, you won't have enough to purchase. Unless you've been collecting them constantly, you will not have enough to purchase that final legendary item trait. So you will want to be out there collecting them and saving them up for that. As well as you can run Mythic Plus dungeons. Plus dungeons. I don't know if any of you, if you haven't read about them, what it is you'll do a Mythic dungeon and then you'll receive a keystone. The keystone is then used to do what's called Mythic Plus, and each rank of Mythic Plus increases in difficulty. It's like combining Mythic dungeons with challenge modes, because there is a timer on it. You have to complete it in a certain amount of time. And with each Mythic Plus, you'll get increased better gear, right? This is a great way if you're an enchanter to collect all kinds of enchanting materials. You'll have tons of epics that you can disenchant that aren't upgrades, or if you've replaced something, you can disenchant your old epics. So you'll be able to do those in your downtime if you're trying to get PVE gear. As well, complete the Suramar quest lines. This is a great way too, because there are 2 dungeons that can't be unlocked until you've done a certain portion of the Suramar quest line. They did remove the necessity to have these dungeons. They said something that they might be removing the necessity to do the Suramar quest line, or they removed the necessity to do the dungeons to complete the Suramar quest line. Something like that about these dungeons, but they do play key roles in some professions. Like you do need to go inside of at least the Court of Stars for engineering, I believe it is. So these will play a role if you're leveling your professions. It's very recommended that you start working on the Suramar quest line and burning it out as much as possible, because as well as completing it, you unlock this right here, which is the Withered Army training. And I've shown you guys before completions of the Withered Army training and stuff. This is a great way to make early gold too, because in the Withered Army training, you know, only a few people are going to be able to complete it early on and get some really nice rewards. Like I got the pet here, Spiderling, Leyline, Broodling. There it is. That thing is tradable. I can throw it in a cage and then I would be able to sell it. It comes from that minigame. You could definitely get a lot for that. So at least early on, I'm sure people will pay immense amounts for it. You will eventually get it yourself if you simply do the Withered training. But early on, yeah, it'll definitely go for a lot. That's something you can focus on. So again, Suramar questline, really, really important to do. A lot of things in there, and it is a really fun questline. I enjoy doing it a lot. The only ones that I can't complete are dealing with raids, so I'll be able to do them live, but I couldn't do them here. And that's all I can really think of. I mean, work on your professions. A lot of your professions require you to run heroic dungeons, so you'll be able to do those once you've hit 110, but you can't do it before, so you may as well be working on your professions while you level, and then once you hit 110, you'll be running those heroics to complete them up. So class order campaign number 1. That's what I would absolutely guarantee, because those item levels on your weapon, if you look at that, it's 861 item level. That would be 36 item levels less, and I would be much, much weaker compared to somebody who's completed their quest order line. Even if I didn't have a heroic relic, I would have a crappy one, and then that could even be worse. You know what I mean? I'm just saying the third socket in your artifact is very, very powerful, especially on your main. So, class order campaign number 1. Doing world quests constantly. Number 2. Professions. This could be tied with number 2. It depends on what your goals are. If your goal is money making, I would put it in front of world quests, because professions will be really profitable early on. But if you're not into money making, professions can be put on the side, and you'll definitely be better off if you're raiding or PvPing by worrying about world quests, because world quests Going to give you those resources. Going to give you that artifact power. All that stuff is very, very important. Much more than professions if you don't care about money. But then, yes, number 3 would be professions. And number 4 would be the side professions like fishing, archaeology, things like that. Because I wouldn't really count them in the same genre as professions, since archaeology is more like a personal thing. Like everything with archaeology this time is mostly personal wise. It's not really beneficial to others. And then fishing is, while it has a lot of fun things, the rate for Blood of Sargeras was really crappy. I found in all of my fishing, because you could only get the Blood of Sargeras when you were fishing in pools. At least that's how it worked for me. So I never got one when fishing in live water, but when I fished in pools, I would get the Blood of Sargeras. And even then, the rate was horrible. I would get like 1 or 2 every, I'd say, 30 pools at most. And usually in Legion, the only area that had really close-knit pools was here in Suramar. It's right here. Other than that, pools are massively spread out. Like, you'll get a pool here and then one right here, maybe, if you're lucky. It was horrible. The pools, especially in Stormheim, man, these pools were terrible. You gotta, like, jump off a mountain to get your next pool, and then you have to go way around just to go back up to the mountain if you want to. It was terrible. I couldn't find any Storm Ray pools at all. It was just horrible. So, yeah, fishing and archaeology are on the back burner, but if your main professions are the important ones, but the class order campaign and doing world quests, along with the Suramar quests, are definitely number 1 and number 2 for even for PvPers. I would say PvPers is really important, the class order campaign, because that third weapon socket, that's going to be some damage, right? I don't know how the way the item level scales with PvP, but I imagine your weapon is still based on how much time you're going to put into it, because they even said that doing raiding will give you the best in socket gear for PvP. So I guarantee you this third socket's going to play a big role, especially if you have raid relics thrown in that baby. So, thank you all for watching. These are all my thoughts. Apologize the video is so long. I just wanted to share everything that I could believe would be useful once you hit 110. So I appreciate you for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.